Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into everything surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. And today's episode is packed with some truly explosive rumors and developments that could shift the entire landscape of this franchise. From a potential blockbuster trade for a top-tier cornerback to major decisions looming around the defensive line, and extension talks heating up for two of the most exciting young stars in the NFL, Micah Parsons and George Pickens, we've got a ton to unpack. So grab your coffee, sit back, and let's get into everything you need to know right now, because if even half of these moves come to fruition, the Dallas Cowboys are about to make one of the boldest offseasons we've seen in years. Let's begin with what's dominating the headlines at this very moment. Whispers and speculation coming out of the league circles pointing to a serious interest from the Cowboys in potentially trading for superstar cornerback Jalen Ramsey. Now, this isn't just your average rumor mill buzz. There are people around the league suggesting that the Cowboys front office, aware of the fact that their secondary is one elite piece away from being absolutely lethal, are eyeing Ramsey as a fix-it-all move after the departure of key veteran depth and the inconsistent health of some current players. The idea behind this move is clear: pair Ramsey with Trevon Diggs, Darren Bland, and Donovan Wilson, and you suddenly have a shutdown secondary that could rival any in the NFL. Ramsey, who's been dealing with injuries lately, still carries the aura of a game-changer. He's a lockdown corner with the kind of versatility that allows him to line up anywhere on the field, outside, inside, in the slot, or even as a safety in hybrid schemes. He's still a force in man coverage and adds a swagger that could electrify the Cowboys' defense in high-pressure moments. The cost, however, won't be cheap. The Dolphins know Ramsey's worth, and even with his recent injury issues, they're not just going to let him walk for a bargain. Dallas would likely have to part with a couple of high draft picks, think a second rounder and a conditional fourth, or possibly a young player thrown into the mix, depending on how negotiations go. But here's the thing: Dallas might be more willing to pull that trigger now than ever before. There's an increasing sense of urgency inside the star. The Cowboys' window to win a Super Bowl while still having major stars like Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb on manageable deals is slowly closing. Every year, contracts go up, players want more money, and it gets harder to keep a championship roster together. Adding someone like Ramsey could be the final puzzle piece to get Dan Quinn's defense over the top, especially with the front seven already causing chaos week in and week out. But of course, Jalen Ramsey isn't the only big-name buzz circling around Dallas right now. There's also talk, and it's growing louder, about the Cowboys looking to acquire a dominant defensive tackle via trade. One name that continues to surface is Derrick Brown of the Carolina Panthers. Now, Brown is a mountain of a man in the trenches, a true anchor in the run game, and someone who could take a lot of pressure off the Cowboys' linebackers. While Osa Odigizua has shown real promise and Motzi Smith continues to develop, there's a belief that one more elite interior presence could be the difference between a solid defensive line and an elite, championship-caliber front. Trading for a defensive tackle might actually make even more sense in the long run than bringing in another cornerback. Why? Because the Cowboys' biggest issues late in seasons, especially in playoff games, tend to revolve around stopping the run. Just look back at that playoff loss to the 49ers. They got bullied at the point of attack. If you can't stop teams on third and short or plug the gaps against power run schemes, then all the elite coverage in the world won't save you. A guy like Derrick Brown, or even someone like DeForest Buckner, if the Colts get desperate enough to move him, could immediately change the tone of that front. So you might be asking, are these just dreams? Or is Dallas actually preparing to make a serious move? Well, reports from sources close to the front office suggest that they are, in fact, weighing options. The Cowboys know they've been too conservative in years past, and it's bitten them in the postseason. This new wave of thought is all about calculated aggression. That means if the right trade opportunity presents itself, they'll strike, even if it means giving up future draft assets. And speaking of striking while the iron is hot, let's pivot over to the extension buzz swirling around two extremely talented stars, Micah Parsons and George Pickens. Now, everyone knows about Micah. He's the face of this defense, and quite possibly the entire franchise. He's that rare breed of player who makes an impact on every single snap, whether it's chasing down quarterbacks, wrecking run plays, or drawing so much attention that it opens up lanes for everyone else. But what's new and noteworthy here is that the Cowboys appear ready to open negotiations for a long-term extension sooner rather than later. Micah Parsons is currently on a rookie contract, and the team does still have the fifth-year option in their back pocket. But here's the catch: waiting too long could cost them tens of millions more down the line. Just look at the contracts for top edge rushers across the league. Guys like Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett are setting the market north of $30 million per year. If the Cowboys want to lock Micah in and avoid an all-out contract battle in 2026, now is the time to make a bold offer and get it done. Sources say that Parsons and his camp are open to the idea of staying in Dallas long-term, but only if the money matches his value. And make no mistake, that value is massive. We're talking about a potential record-breaking deal. Something in the range of 5 years, $170–180 million, with over $100 million guaranteed wouldn't be surprising. He's that important. And the Cowboys know that keeping him happy and, more importantly, keeping him in Dallas sends a powerful message that this team is serious about building around its elite core. Now, let's shift to a name that not every Cowboys fan expected to hear in extension conversations: George Pickens. Yes, that George Pickens. The immensely talented and fiery wide receiver from Pittsburgh who has recently been connected to Dallas, and rumors that suggest the Cowboys could be exploring trade options to bring him in and possibly lock him up long term. If this sounds bold, it is. But it's also intriguing. Pickens is a unique talent. He has elite body control, great speed, strong hands, and that classic wide receiver alpha mentality. He plays with an edge, and the Cowboys might be exactly the kind of franchise to channel that energy into something special. So, here's what we're hearing. The Cowboys have at least reached out to explore what it would take to pry Pickens away from Pittsburgh. It's no secret that Pickens has had frustrations with the Steelers' offense. There were visible sideline blow-ups, questions about targets, and a feeling that he's not being used to his full potential. That opens the door. If Dallas believes they can pair Pickens with CeeDee Lamb and possibly Brandon Cooks or Jalen Tolbert, and create one of the most dynamic receiving core in the NFC, they might pull the trigger. But why trade for Pickens and then consider an extension? Because locking up your core weapons now gives you flexibility in the future. You'd rather pay Pickens on the front end before he has a 1,400-yard breakout year and commands top-of-market money. Plus, if Dak Prescott is going to stay in Dallas and thrive, he needs explosive playmakers who can get open and make contested catches. Pickens can be that guy. The Cowboys have lacked that true physical mismatch on the outside since Dez Bryant's prime. Pickens brings shades of that same physical dominance. All of this, of course, ties back to one big picture: the Cowboys are at a crossroads. They have the roster to win now. They've got pieces in place, but they can't afford to sit idle. Whether it's pulling off a blockbuster trade for a player like Jalen Ramsey or Derrick Brown, or extending foundational stars like Micah Parsons and potentially George Pickens, the time for big moves is now. This is no longer a team that can be content with 12-5 regular seasons followed by early playoff exits. The fans want more. The players want more. And ownership knows the pressure is mounting. It's also worth noting that internal leadership is shifting. Micah Parsons is stepping up in the locker room. You're seeing it in how he speaks to the media, how he mentors younger players, and how he takes responsibility on the field. This isn't just about talent anymore, it's about building a culture that can sustain winning. That's why the Cowboys are being more intentional about who they bring in. Ramsey? He's a competitor. Pickens? He's got that fire. These are players who match the mindset that Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy are trying to instill. aggression, accountability, expectation. And don't forget, extensions also have cap implications. If the Cowboys extend Micah and potentially Pickens sooner rather than later, they can structure deals to have lower cap hits in the early years. That frees up room to bring in other veterans, possibly even adding depth at positions like offensive line or linebacker. It all fits into a bigger financial strategy that the front office is finally embracing after years of playing it too safe. So what does it all mean for the fans? It means buckle up. This offseason could be a wild ride. The Cowboys are being linked to some of the biggest names available. They're entering critical contract negotiations. And they're finally acting like a team that's not afraid to go all in. Whether it's landing Ramsey or a monster in the middle like Derrick Brown, or locking in their future with Micah Parsons and maybe even George Pickens, the message is clear: the Cowboys aren't content with good enough. They want to be great. And they might just have the tools and the will to make it happen. And that's a wrap for today's deep dive into the latest Dallas Cowboys rumors and updates. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more exclusive insights, trade analysis, and in-depth news delivered just like this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Cowboys Nation, let me know in the comments, should the team trade for Ramsey or a top-tier DT? Should they prioritize extensions for Parsons and maybe go bold with Pickens? Let your voice be heard. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and go Cowboys.